Um, so I think the first item on our agenda was the meeting with the council chair and the vice chair. Dan, do you want to kick that off?
Sure. Um, so we soon after our last meeting, we were able to have a Zoom meeting. I think at least three of us with the council chair and the vice chair joined that. And I think we talked for 15 or 20 minutes. It went well. We presented the case. Um, I don't think we got any complete promise, but we got um, interest and support. And so I think that went well, and I think that the timing was good. I think it was right before the it's right around the time of a work session for the council committee, appropriate committee, and the administration. And so far, I think since then we haven't. We're optimistic, I think, and see, did our letter? I guess that's the next item. But was there anything else to add to that?
Yeah, so just as background, because state funding, and I don't know the details of what the state funding reduced, but state funding reduced our county's budget by $4 million. And so that gap had to be filled um, both in the proposal by the executive, because we need a balanced budget, and by whatever is agreed upon in discussions between the executive and the council. And so that amount was going to be reduced by the county executive in the proposed budget. And it was in view of this drop in funding that we met with the chair and the vice chair to ask um, that that the public financing not be a part of that reduction in the total budget. And before that, as Dan was saying, we did send a letter to the acting county executive, which is the next item on the agenda. So I think we can talk about both these issues together. Um, we did send a letter to the acting executive asking that um, any reduction in the budget not include a reduction in the public financing budget. Do you want to add to that, Dan?
Well, and I think we just realize that everybody realizes that it's a difficult budget year, and so everything is sort of on the table in many ways. And the different hearings that have occurred, just people coming out and very passionate about their programs, and so we had a little bit of support and mention at some of those hearings for the fair election fund, but I think we just wanted to keep it in front of them on the table. And one of the things we were able to communicate was that we learned from at our last meeting that with Prince George's involved, it's what 72% of the voters in the state. And I think so. We're just trying to make all those different cases, and uh, I think the fact that relatively it's not a huge amount of money. I mean, it's substantial in a lot of different programs that are looking for that or even less to stay alive. But I think given the limited number of people that can run, that the funding really can work for a successful launch. We kept making that over and over. I think uh, so far we haven't heard of any concerted attack, but still, until it's over, it could I think everything is fair game. So we still wanted to keep making our points to the on both sides of the budget teams negotiations.
Yeah, I think Jana's on if she has something to add.
Yes, thank you guys. I'm so sorry for being late. I don't know why I wasn't able to get on the many different links you guys sent me. Hi, Kevin. It's good to see you. It's good to see all the commissioners and good to see Ms. Warner Wiggins as always. So I just wanted to, it looks like you guys covered the meeting with the chair and the vice chair and just their support of this program as appropriate and just our renewed comments to the county, the acting county executive to make sure that this was still a priority. We did do that as well. And then I guess we're moving into just making sure that that is a thing. I feel like we've done a lot around just making sure that the funding is still there and having the conversations. So I'm just, at this point, it's almost kind of echoing what Commissioner Dan said. It's almost like fingers crossed. We've talked to everybody that we could talk to. We've resent letters. We've stressed the importance of this. We've done everything that we can, and everyone is saying like, okay, okay. So we're just hopeful that that is kept.
Could I ask a question whether Ms. Warner Wiggins, do you offhand know the final timetable of, the likely, I guess it's the end of May that the final budget's adopted, but will the essential final budget that's kind of that they've agreed upon for the final vote, does that come out like a week before the vote, or do you happen to know that timing?
I don't know how far in advance, ahead of the vote, we would see the final version. Um, yeah, but I think, I'm gonna look it up, but I believe it typically happens around the end of May, but I think they technically have until maybe the first week of June. But I'm gonna look at the, county code to see exactly the date, that they're required by law to finalize everything.
You're correct, Ms. Warner Wiggins. They do have until June 1st to balance the budget. And I know the council chair Burrows mentioned that they were extending the deadline for the negotiations. I think traditionally it's been May the 15th, but they're extending the time period. But they have until June 1st.
So are we at the phase at which the executive and the council are working on this recent budget shortfall and trying to figure out what to do about it? Is that where we are? I understand that the executive's cuts did not extend to public financing. Or is that all still in the negotiation stage?
I personally am not at all involved in the negotiations. So I find out about the budget the same.
We can't hear you,
Oh, you
Ms.
can't hear
Warner
me?
Wiggins.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, if you just come a
Hopefully-
little closer to the mic. Yeah, just come a little closer.
Okay. I was saying that I'm not at all involved in the negotiation, so I find out about the budget at the same time that everyone else does.
Yeah.
But given the timeline, we would be in the final stages of budget development.
So I mean, I guess the question is there anything else we can do? I guess the only thing would be if people have relationships with the chair or vice chair, or to to reiterate. But I think we've done that. So hopefully, in the next week, we'll know. Certainly in the next 2 weeks.
I think maybe, I mean, the only other thing I could think of is sending like one more letter to the county executive and the county council, just stating like, hey, thank you for your support of this program, blah, 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 blah. And maybe sending out that next week, like we could draft it this week, send it out next week. So it's in the sphere of them talking, like they get it Monday morning. Just, just again saying, hey, just thank you so much. We appreciate your support and things of that nature. Does that make, how does everyone feel about that? Because to the point, it's almost like, well, what else can we do? We've done everything. I would say just maintaining the visibility. And one of the ways of doing that is just like maybe sending another letter. But what's everyone's thoughts on that?
That would be fine, but I think it would just need to, like 2 paragraphs or 1 paragraph, just a real short one probably would be fine.
Yeah, I was thinking just something very short.
I think as the person on the group who's representing a good government group, I would be willing to send an email out to our list, asking people to contact their council members and urge that this program be supported fully.
Yeah, I would support that. I think that's a good idea. I think part of it at this stage is then also elevating the program visibility sort of in the public outreach so that these kind of communications will will have value. And I think one of the things is before the budget's out there, if some of these people like that are advocates for it or interested, hear from you or from us, that it just raises the visibility so that when the budget does come out, we can make sure that we communicate with our networks, formal and then the individual ones we have, just to assure them it's in there. And then we get to move on to our next steps of outreach and visibility for the program.
Which I think takes us on to the next topic. All right, the public outreach. Jana, you're on mute.
I guess one question I have on outreach would be, when the budget is finalized and we know the final number, and let's assume it's going to be positive, we get that $400,000, is it what should we do as a commission can we put out a notice? Would the acting county executive be appropriate for her office to put out a notice, or how do we how can we communicate that, just draw attention sort of formally that this is in the budget, and here are the resources for voters and also for potential candidates, and just provide those links? Is that appropriate that this is done? And I guess we could ask the acting executives communications staff if they're interested in doing that, or if it's somehow further down the chain.
Yeah,
We can't hear you.
Go ahead.
No, Ms. Waterwiggins is speaking. We can't hear her.
Oh, I was saying that we can ask the communication staff if they'd be interested in putting out a press release or something along those lines. We also have the Office of Community Relations that has indicated that they can send out email blasts to the organizations in there that they represent or that they support.
Okay.
I think, so to that end, I really hope that we can, I think the next meeting, maybe having them on, because I know we've talked about it a lot, about using the Office of Public Relations and using the communications people, and then there just hasn't been like the coordination to get that done. So let's just have them on, like somebody from uh, the Office of Communications and the Office of, because there's two separate offices that you mentioned. Let's just have them on for the next meeting so that we can talk about and agree on a concerted effort to do this outreach as necessary and needed.
I think that would
I
be
can
great.
send out an invitation.
I mean, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, we're sending them out an invitation a month in advance, and it's a whole office. So if they can't find one person from each office to come talk to us, I'm concerned.
Well, one of the,
Well, I do have to say, I'm not so sure it's a whole office, especially communications. I think it's, this is the county executive's communication staff. So I don't know if it's an office or if it's it might be a person.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm not sure how big the Office of Community Relations is either. But yeah, we can reach out.
and one factor that might, one reality is that our special election is on the 3rd of June. And I'm not sure how fast that's certified. I would presume it might not even be certified by the time we have our meeting on the 11th, 8 days later. But as soon as it's certified, I guess I would presume the new executive will be sworn in. But anyway, we could be kind of caught in the middle of some of that transition in terms of there may be other priorities that some of them have. So this is great to get it in there. And I think we could take, if we can get something from the community relations before, or, anyway, we're interested. We need to find a way to get the word out.
Yeah. So if you would please, let's invite them. And I think having both of them on at the same time would be better for how we can move forward. I mean, we can have a better, plan of action. Mm-hmm.
And in terms of us going, other opportunities to raise this at other community meetings, do we have a strategy for that? I mean, I think that would be worth maybe pondering and really addressing at the June meeting so that we can try to give it some visibility at different networks. So my wife is on I think I mentioned before, on the League of Women Voters board for the county, and I just asked her about it. She asked their chair, and she was suggesting a September meeting program, and I just asked if they could do it sooner. But I can ask that again, and if any of you have any other contacts there, that would be one avenue. But I think the different civic associations and some of those networks would be important to try to get several presentations, if we could, early in the summer or by the middle of the summer.
So my understanding from talking to Joanne Antoine of Common Cause is that they do I'm not sure if it's a statewide outreach or if it goes county by county, but they go through the public financing advocacy and information sort of meeting on this subject. So, and that will happen, I think probably this summer, so it could be sooner. So I can find out more details about that, and maybe we can ask her to join us on the next meeting and get information even before that to find out what their approach is. So this is the coalition of groups that has been advocating for public financing statewide for several years now.
Okay, so for the next meeting, at least, we're inviting them to have on there, and then we can come up with a more coordinated outreach strategy. I know Commissioner Teacher, you talked about what the state does. I would probably like, what Commissioner Dan said about presenting in front of the, League of Women Voters, in September, so to see if we can get on their calendar. And then I don't know if we have the guests on here. I don't know if you guys gave Kevin a chance to speak, introduce himself, and give a little bit of background. But I definitely, if that hasn't happened, I definitely want to give space for that as we kind of wind down with the agenda. Kevin, go ahead.
Sure. I recognize several of the faces from being here last month. So I'm Kevin Galogli. I'm with the State Board of Elections. And just a couple things. One, I just was looking it up when Commissioner Dan mentioned this, is that certification of the special general will be on June 13th. So the primary is June 3rd. So that will happen 2 days after your meeting, because you meet on the second Wednesday of every month, correct?
Yes.
Here. Yeah. So it'll be just 2 days afterwards. I think you probably will know beforehand, but it just won't be official until that point. Because there's procedures built in to be able to allow for people to challenge or question things, and that could happen. So nothing is done until the certification. Since we were last here, and I won't rehash a lot of the things that we talked about before, but yeah, I do know that Joanna from Common Cause and some other people are looking to do something in and around Baltimore in and around July. I don't know if that's comprehensive or just focused on Baltimore County and maybe Howard, since they're up and running, but there'll be something going on there. Some of your other counterparts, I know Howard is doing something early next month as well. Yeah, you're sort of restricted, as we talked about before, that people they had to make their declaration by June 30th of last year to be able to get in there, to be able to do it. So it looks like, unless I am missing something or they sent it somewhere else, I haven't seen it. But again, if you hear of anyone who's made a declaration that has an existing account, we can certainly check and make sure. These newer counties, we've gone back and forth, just trying to make sure that we're following A, county law, and B, the intent of what's going on, as well as also following the things that are required for all candidates, whether they're in public financing or not, under the Maryland State Board of Elections and their compliance stuff. So as we see some of these things, we can certainly work through them and, almost sort of develop. I know you have the summary guide, and I believe is there also an FAQ up there too, that I'm trying to keep them all straight, and I can't remember which one said which. I know you have the summary guide, but Jackie, do you have an FAQ up there as well?
Not yet. Can you hear me? I'm saying not yet. There's not one yet.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And don't worry, because some of the other newer jurisdictions are in that same boat as well. And like I mentioned when I was here last month, I think it was last month, maybe it was 2 months ago, I can't remember. They all blend together after a while. But, maybe you feel like you're a little bit behind the 8 ball and stuff, but I think when you compare to where Baltimore City was when I was involved in that, the first people to file weren't until September, and there were 4 of us that filed then. Even though it had, unanimity in the city council, none of them actually participated in it. And those things happen. You look at your brethren, in Montgomery, it's just like, I think they trip over themselves all trying to be on public financing. So if you're somewhere between Montgomery and Baltimore City, you're going to be just fine, so keep that in mind. One of the things that the governor a week ago yesterday signed the law to change the primary. So now we are officially on June 23rd rather than June 30th. It does change the because all the jurisdictions have 365, no disbursements can go out more than 365 days before the election. That moves things up to June 24th of this year. The reporting schedule is up. I put it up for all the ones that are publicly financed. They can see it. It still hasn't gotten up on our state website yet, but essentially it's the first and third Tuesday of every month beginning last week. But again, there's no reason for anyone to submit to that until they hit their qualifying thresholds. I have reached out to many, but not all of the people that have public finance accounts that are active in all 5 jurisdictions. I haven't gotten through all of them yet, but I have been reaching out, A, to introduce myself, and B, to sort of go over some of the questions that they may have as an individual, because we have both first-time candidates, particularly in the 3 new jurisdictions, as well as I have new candidates in both Howard and Montgomery that are asking about the program. And many of the newcomers' questions are no different than those that we have here. So it's sort of moving on a little bit like that. But, you do have, you have 3 candidates that are already term limited. So maybe those offices come into play and stuff like that. Again, that's not for me to decide. It's not for me to put my finger on the scale, but you do have enough people in there that they can possibly choose this as an option. And like I said, in Baltimore City, no one really got going until September. My candidate, Shannon Sneed, qualified in October. We were the first ones to qualify. So, yeah, and we had I think a May primary. I forget. I think it was a May primary last year. It all blends together. So, it's essentially the same setup. I think I'll just sort of stop there and turn it back to you, but I wanted to at least give you sort of some broad overviews. We are talking with other people, because I also cover the gubernatorial, and I allow people to come and talk to me without me necessarily broadcasting it, because they want to be able to look at what they can and cannot do. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, question, is there any update on candidate who maybe have opened an account or filed whatever the process for in Prince George's? We had one, I believe. Do we have any additional ones?
I just looked at it. No, that's the last one to go in there. And, again, anyone can see the thing is that with public financing is you can go, anyone can see it in real time. And if you want to, I can actually, rather than me doing it from my account, if someone wants to share their screen and go to the Maryland State Board of Elections, I'll show you the very simple steps to find it in the most easy way possible. You obviously would be just concerned about Prince George's, but I just look to see all the ones that are out there. So you want to put your screen up, Dan?
Miss Warner-Wiggins, could you do that for us, please?
Yeah, I'm not sure if
Miss Warner-Wiggins.
how adept I am at putting it up.
Okay.
Give us 1 second.
So I have heard another prospective candidate is real interested and might be announcing within the next few weeks for a district seat in the South County area, but we'll see if that happens.
And please send them my way, because I can give them, some of the steps that I have to go through, and then they can decide whether they want to do it or not. And like I said, I'm reluctant to be able to tell you of people that I've chatted with, because I want to be able to have honest conversations with them. So here's our State Board of Elections, and you can sort of see it. And so again, it's elections.maryland.gov. And if you click on the link that says campaign finance, the second one down, and if you look at this, you can see you have the campaign database, you can see contributions, expenditures right in the center. And if you look at the review information about candidate committees, and you just click on that one right there, that one up at the top. Okay, and you're going to have to hit continue. This sends you actually to a different website. And if you look on the left-hand side under the stuff that says committee details, go to the bottom which says committee type. And that has a drop-down window. And if you come all the way down, there's public finance. You click on it. And then if you go into the second column that says report status, and you go committee status up on top, hit active, and then hit search. So you're just doing 2 or 3 things, and you can see everyone across the state. And you can pretty much determine some of these are older ones that haven't run in a while. The first couple, I think the first 3 are, no, the first 2 are like that. The others are council members that are in Montgomery County. But if you just sort of scroll down, you'll start to see this is sorted by when their committee went active. And you can see, you may not recognize some of those names, that's fine. And then if you go down into the lower left-hand side, you can advance to the next one and go there. And you'll be able to see, if you scroll, you can go up to the top. I think Jeremiah, no, there's a couple ahead of it. So you can see some more, but if you see the 4th or 5th one down, there's the one from Prince George's County. And I can tell by the hyperlink, the way it's faded out, that someone's looked at it recently. And that's how I wanted to be able to avoid showing you which ones I looked at. So I outed you, Jackie. Sorry about that. But if you scroll all the way down, you can see that since this is done in order, you can see the last one to file for public financing is someone over in Montgomery County. And the status, if you scroll up to the top so you can see the headers, if you see up the top, the 5th column over, so it goes committee type, then the CCF, that's candidacy and campaign finance. This is our internal ID, ones that are active. But if you go to certification status, everyone that's new is going to have pending submission. And you're going to have that until you actually have submitted something and you've qualified. And when you do get to that point of you've submitted something and you've hit the thresholds, you're going to have like the one up at the top that says certified/qualified. And so you can be able to see when they were registered, if they made any amendments, and who their point of contacts are. This is public information. We try to be as open and transparent about it. So when someone puts up, their matching fund reports, not only will we get a notice on it, but any enterprising people for the opposition or news organizations can find it as well. So yes, you just have the one person from Prince George's County right now, and there's one in Anne Arundel, there's 2 in Howard County, there's 2 in Baltimore County. Like I said, some of these are a little bit old. 3 or 4 of them are in Baltimore City that haven't closed out. We're working on getting them done. And then there's 2 or 3, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think there's 6 or 7 new ones in Montgomery County alone. So, just a different setup. So that can at least tell you. But again, Dan, if you have anyone that is interested in learning more, clearly you can talk to them, your commissioners one-on-one. But if they want more detailed information, you should have my information. I can put it in the chat window again so that you can share it with others. That's the whole point of this, is to be able to let people make an honest decision. This is a voluntary program. No one has to do it, but if they want to do it, they're going to ask all these questions about what if I do this or what if I do that? And they want to be able to do those scenarios and bounce them off someone without it necessarily becoming public information. And that's one of the roles I play here.
Great. Yeah.
So now you know how to be able to look up, and I look at that every day because I don't get a notice. It doesn't bounce to my email that says, oh, we got a new one registered. So I just have to look every day, just like you guys. And I have the ability on the admin side to look deeper, but I just go in the old way, just the way Jackie did. I'm very comfortable working through the Maryland Chris system as a citizen because that's how I did it so often. Hopefully that was helpful.
Yeah, that's helpful. And I think that that's helpful as we talk to other people and, you know, if we're going to other meetings and doing presentations, it might be helpful to, well, certainly to, you know, mention you as a contact, a resource that's available, but also just, I found that helpful just kind of going through because I've at times, I haven't used it a lot, that system, but looking up some of the campaign committees, sometimes it just takes a few times to kind of internalize it or get familiar because of those different different screens there. So that's helpful. Thanks.
No, it is, and I understand that. I did the same. My supervisor did a training for the Democratic Party last week, and he and we went down and talked with the Republican state convention 2 weekends ago to be able to show them not just this, but just understand there's a whole range of questions that people have to be able to understand everything. And again, we're here to be a resource. We're not here to basically make things difficult for folks. You know, if you're making an honest attempt to be able to correct things, we'll work with you. If you're going to ignore us, you're in trouble. And I think 90% of the people that are doing this, they just make honest mistakes. And we're here to help correct those so that they can get them done right.
Thank you so much. That was very helpful. And yeah, we'll definitely make sure that we're passing on this information as we set up our outreach plan and we start going throughout the county as we had initially had hoped to do months ago. And we're going to start in this next cycle. All right, if there is nothing else, I'm so sorry I was late, guys. I think Dan has something else, but let me
Yeah,
stop
one
there.
question.
Mhm.
Yeah, just one question that since our law requires the director of the Office of Finance to make a determination about the amount of money that's available and whether there needs to be an adjustment in the payout, and that has to be, I believe, done by either July 1 or 1 year before the election. Would that be appropriate to invite the director of the Office of Finance or a representative to come and explain at the next meeting what their process or thinking is about that?
I mean, oh, go ahead, Ms. Warner Wiggins.
Okay. I could speak with the director about that. And so just thinking right now we have one person. So let's assume we have the full 800,000. That's all the information we'll have to work with. And so not to get ahead of what his thinking may be. I don't know if he would feel there's enough information to reduce the payments at this point. July 1 is what the legislation says, that he would make a determination by July 1. I don't think he'll have enough information by July 1 to reduce payments, to declare that payments will be reduced. But I will speak with him about that.
Yeah, and it seems that I presume he's aware of like the letters we've sent, but if not, you could share those because I think we had in there at least one scenario, or a couple of them, that with 800,000 we could fund one at large and 8 district races, or it could 2 at large and whatever that would turn out to be, 4 or 5. So it's got those scenarios, and I don't know if they're, I think that's about what you have to go on. It just the indication. So, but could that determination be made later if, or is that a deadline of July 1? Maybe that's what you could ask about, because when I was reading the manual, or the guide, it seemed like there was some language in there. I can't point to it right now, but about if there's not enough funds, later in the year, in the campaign, that they can make adjustments, something. But anyway, we're hopeful that doesn't have to happen, but just in case there are any thoughts about potential changes or the process, it'd be great just to have a heads up in advance so that we can be weighing in, or at least aware, so we can help communicate that.
The legislation does allow for the potential reduction in payments or the stopping of payments in the event that there's no longer any funding available. So that is in there. There's no obligation for the county to make payments if funding runs out, essentially. So that is part of the legislation.
Okay.
One thing to keep in mind, and I mentioned some of these numbers last time. Baltimore City had $2 million in their account when they ran last time. They had, I think, $1.2 million go out, but because one of the candidates for mayor dropped out, they returned some of their money there. So they're still at, their fund is still at like 1.1, 1.2 right now. So they collectively, there were 4 people that qualified in Baltimore City. And when you take back the return of funds, you're looking at, I think it was 750,000 was spent by the 4 people that qualified. There were a total of 8 people that applied, and that may be not a bad benchmark for you. If someone does choose to run for county executive with public financing, they can get 750, and yes, they could basically, the proverbial, suck all the oxygen out of the room. You're going to have to be a pretty strong candidate. The one in the mayor, who got public finance, he had run citywide a couple times before, so he was known, and had even run for mayor previously under the traditional format, and he didn't hit the max numbers there. So a lot, I think, probably depends on what happens with your special election next month. But I would assume that the person who wins that will run again. And, it's usually tougher to beat an incumbent. Not impossible. It does happen. But, those things are not as, it's basically a if an incumbent loses, it's usually a referendum on the incumbent themselves. Right now, if you just have it with some of your council members, which they get, I think your max is 75,000 and your at-large is 200. If you had all 3 of your term limited people, plus maybe 2 more from the council districts run as well. So let's say you have 5. Not all of them are going to max, but let's assume they all do. You're looking at, what's that? That's 75. Let's see, that 400. Or wait a minute, 75, 153. You're going to be 375 for 5 district people that max out. And if you had 2 people running for at large and they max out, you're at 400,000. So that could basically cover everything you needed. And that's assuming everyone maxes out. To give you an idea, only about half the people that apply historically have qualified. And of that, most of them do not hit their max. My candidate in Baltimore City, we did very well. We got $290,000 from Baltimore City, but our max was 375. So we missed by, $85,000 from hitting our max. So those, again, there's really not too many. Let's see, right now, I think there's only been like 12 times in all 4 elections where people have maxed out. So it's not as easy as people think. And I can tell you from doing it, it's tough. But it's a great avenue and it's an option. And we're here to help them. So in terms of your funding, you may be okay. The course, again, all of a sudden you get 2 or 3 people that can generate a lot of funds for county executive, and that equation just gets blown up, And that's, I can't predict it. And if I did, I'd be hanging out in Vegas right now, making some other bets. Maybe I'd go down to Fort Washington.
Yeah, come down here and spend your money down here. That's a better bet.
Well, absolutely. Why just keep it in Maryland?
Exactly.
Although I'm in Baltimore City, and I'd have to go this way, and I'd have to go right by to get to yours. I'd have to go by the one in Anne Arundel and the one here in Baltimore City. But I'd come down there just because it's a great facility.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, we come on down here. We'll have lots of fun. Okay, well, I want to again, I just want to apologize for being late. I have technical difficulties. It's the one time that I actually had them, but I do want to respect everyone's time since we have the administration on as well. Would be good resource for the financial director, then, of course. I do want to respect everyone's time because we have, just the staff from the county on as well. If there's nothing else, we can go ahead and have a motion to adjourn and see each other in June. Also, I do want to put on the agenda for June, maybe a discussion about a summer recess, just to make sure that we give, the admin some time, give ourselves some time to recharge, reboost, things of that nature. But if there's nothing else, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 All right. All right, aye as well. All right, thank you guys, and I'll see you next month.
Thank
Bye
you
now.
all.
Aye.